Hello, 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 everybody. It is morning time here in California, and good afternoon or evening, wherever you are, whatever time you may be watching this. My name is Jennifer Hart. This is Jennifer Hart Connected. Kind of just a little interview series I started to do. I love to get into people's worlds and see what they're up to. I've been on my own personal healing and spiritual journey for about 12 years-ish, give or take now. And what I found is I love to share what I'm doing, who I'm meeting, how they're helping the world, people in the world to heal. There's a lot of people waking up right now, and there's support needed, right? And so I'm super excited about my friend and guest today. She's super awesome. Oh, and if you don't know me, I'm Jennifer Hart. Thanks for joining me. I am a connector and a soul guide. I say soul guide because I'm sharing my experiences. So I'm kind of guiding people who are on the same path that I was when I first started, which I didn't even know that I was having a spiritual awakening until after the fact. I just knew I was seeking change. I was seeking growth. I was not happy, satisfied, fulfilled. I felt like I was meant to do something more. I wanted to have my purpose. I want to connect with a purpose. You can have multiple. So that's why I want to say a purpose. And that's been my journey so far. And now I just connect people who are like me and seeking that change and growth in their life to the people, events, and resources and information that they need. So we are going to be talking about it later, but I'll just mention it. I am doing connection events because what I found was when you start on this path of personal development and curiosity and exploration of yourself and connection with yourself further, it gets kind of lonely sometimes because not everybody wakes up at the same time. And so we are doing connection events. We're going to talk about this because we're doing one tomorrow, and Christina is going to be our amazing healer. So I just want to mention that. If you are watching, let us know where you're watching from in the US or outside of the US. I know there's some global viewers as well. And without further ado, I want to chat a little bit about Christina before I bring her on. So we're going to be talking today about the new hope for ourselves in the realm of health and well-being. Now, Christina, she has over 20 years of experience. She doesn't look like it. She's an expert, highly sought after wellness educator, health coach, and doctor of quantum medicine. She's a dynamic speaker and trainer in all areas of well-being, human vitality, health, behavior change, mental fitness, and performance. Her strengths are in her ability to connect to individuals and groups, and this shows up in her delivery and implementation of academic, public health, and coaching programs using her applied skills and lifetime of training to create deeper, more meaningful, and healthier connections. And I have worked with Christina personally, and she is freaking amazing. So hello, hello, hello. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was a really nice introduction. So I appreciate you.
It was all true. All of it's true. And we've been talking about this so long. So we have done one live together, which people absolutely loved. And that was kind of like tuning into your body. And it was like intuitive kind of health related questions or things that came up. And so today we're specifically going to talk about how people can take, and this is a topic that you and I are always talking about, that you're always helping me with, ourselves into the new realm of health and well-being. But first, I always like to talk about like, how are we all connected? So you and I got connected because I went into a clubhouse room that I was hosting with some friends, and I met your BFF, Liz. And Liz and I connected, and she's amazing too. And then she was like, "Oh, you have to meet my BFF, Christina." And so then it's like the circle expands. And so now we've been, keeping in touch and collaborating and hanging out.
Yeah.
And it's been like a year, maybe
even more. It's over a year.
I think it's over a year for sure. Like, I think it was at the beginning of COVID. So maybe even 2 years now. Time flies, man.
I always say in COVID years because the time seemed to be shorter, but extensively longer at the same time. So
yeah, feels longer. And real quick, tell me, so you are getting your doctorate, or you've got your doctorate in functional integrative medicine?
Yes. So I will be done with my doctorate degree in August, God willing. Yep. So it's there. I have a few more courses, but and finishing up the last bit of the research that I will soon eventually think of making into a book. But right now, that's part of my journey right now. So soon to
Oh,
be Doctor of Integrative Medicine, which has a lot to do with holistic health, natural medicine, and then we bring in all of that energy, quantum, spiritual, what they call spiritual stuff to the health part. So it's been pretty amazing.
and when you say spiritual, you mean like intuition and spiritual gifts?
Well, I think a lot of people, when we talk energy, because it's an unseen thing for
Yeah.
some people, it falls in that realm of woo woo. I don't understand how energy in the room can make a difference in my life and how balancing my energy. So it falls under the spiritual aspect, right? Why? Because we have to have some type of belief or tap into our knowing that this is actually a real thing. This, the science is out there, right? It's been for years, but that's why I say the spirituality part, right? Because it falls under that category.
Yes, and that is like my jam. That is what I love. I could talk about that for hours. I'm so intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And I want to just kind of, if it's okay, talk about your spiritual gifts that you have that helps you to dive even deeper to helping people in their own personal journeys.
For
Tell
sure.
tell me about it.
So I started this off in fitness and health. So nutrition was my background, and then I got really into like the positive psychology, the stress and resiliency, because the reason why people I felt weren't losing weight, weren't reaching their goals, those type of things all kind of came together. It was that mind body, and what was missing was that spiritual piece.
Mhm.
And so um, I took a deep dive into positive psychology, connecting that to it because it just all went together for me. Um, I then started taking a lot of energy medicine courses, and it was crazy. The people that I say the universe connected me to in those moments were exactly the people I needed at the right time. Noticing I just thought I was really great with connecting with people, and I had this sense of knowing what they needed. um, Kind of came into fruition when all of a sudden I was in this workshop and some woman's like, Christina, you are divinely guided. And I was like, okay, thank you. That's wonderful. I was like, yeah, I feel that way sometimes. And she's like, no, you can see energy, right? And I was like, give me an example of what I see, because I wasn't understanding the concepts. And she's like, just take a look at my body and find the toxins within my body. And I was like, you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. And I eventually was able to say, well, I see something happening. My eyes are drawn to your knees, we'll say. And then where that was connected. And I said, if she goes into anything else, I was like, something down near your ankle, like this glowing bar is what I'm thinking, but I thought no meaning to it because that seemed crazy in my world.
Yeah.
And she's like, great, that's good. I have a pin that hooks my knee to the lower half of my ankle. So that's exactly where a foreign object is in my body. And I left that stage in front of these people going, what just happened? What just happened? And so, of course, then Christine, in her curiosity, was just like, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. So I dove deep into Joe Despienz's work. He's actually one of my professors for one of the courses, and Bruce Lipton, who talks about the biology of belief. And I just got intrigued in everything. And then started talking to mentors that knew this stuff, how I connected to Liz. And then her gifts in guiding people like me in their journey in figuring out what we're seeing, what we're doing, how to use these gifts. So right now I can look into people's energy now that I have that confidence and that clear energy and that idea of spirituality, and I can actually see energy within the body and kind of tell somebody where things are and what's going on, giving them the next step. So that's a useful tool sometimes when being a doctor and someone comes to me and they're like, but I have this thing and it's this thing. And I'm like, actually it's this thing. And if we correct this energy, the body's going to heal itself. And so
Yeah.
it's simple, we'll say, but it's just another tool, right? That I've learned to start using.
I love it. And it's so this is why I wanted to specifically bring it up, because I feel like there are so many people that have these types of gifts and then they discredit them. Like I always wanted to be psychic, right? Like when I was a kid, I always wanted to be, oh, that'd be so cool to be psychic. And then, another word for that is also intuitive. And I realized after learning more about it and also finding my way through the universe, connecting with people who were super intuitive, they're like, you're really intuitive. But I never knew because it comes so easy to me. And the way that my intuition is different than yours, you see energy and toxins and health related things, and I just know things. Like I just know things. I know the right questions to ask people, I know the right things to say, and it's like you don't know what you don't know. And so until you like start to open up to it, and if you're watching this and you're like, oh, like I see people's auras, and then you're freaked out by it because you're like, what the hell? And also society doesn't really like make it like okay. And so it's like I want to throw that out there, that if you're watching and you experience anything like this, there are people like you out here. We all have them, but just a lot of times we shut them down because society just is like, oh, that's weird or scary or bad. And it's not. It doesn't have to be. Um,
Yeah.
so
It's almost like unlearning what we've been learned. So one of the things we were going to talk about today is really just getting back in touch with that intuition, because as you said, Jen, everyone has the ability. This
yes,
is what I know to be true.
yes,
We are actually programmed with this, I say a sonar or radar or something that gives us what we need. It's just somewhere along the line we just ignore ourselves, right? So if I'm walking and I see yellow and then I see something else yellow, and then then I think about yellow later that afternoon, I'm like, I don't get curious. I was like, ew, I've seen so many yellow things today. I say experiences are the universe's kisses, right? And so intuition is just that, right? When you have a bad vibe with someone in the room, you don't really know what it is, but you want to get away, get away. With those type of things, we learn to hold that back. And I use a simple example of, you're thirsty and your teacher told you that you couldn't get up to get a drink of water. So now you've already started telling your body that I'm going to ignore what you're telling me, the symptoms you're giving me, and I'm going to just follow the rules and do this thing. And then all of a sudden, it's like we've lost that gift or forgotten how to use that gift. But
yeah,
when children have it, be around young children. They're the people that know, hey, some people will say, hey, my child knew I was pregnant before I told anybody. Of course they did,
yeah,
right? This
yeah.
so it's
Oh, I
pretty.
love that. Yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there in case anybody's watching, because you were new. I think I met you right when like all of this had just opened up for you and you were navigating it and you were like, whoa, like, and it's just so natural to you.
Yeah,
You don't even know that it's like a gift, right? And
yeah.
so I
It's
think,
like it's coming back to trusting.
yeah,
Trusting that what you see, and just people that are reaffirming those type of things. An example of somebody coming in there, they had a transplant, a kidney transplant, and the energy around the transplant area was hollow. And I was like, I don't know, I see this hollow connection around your kidney. I don't know what that is. There's this hole. And it was just showing me I have to get really curious and ask the questions and then have the person follow through with those things. But it was just we had to weave the new energy into an existing whole, right? And the energy that wasn't hers or his, and put it together for them. So
yeah,
those type of things. But until somebody reinforces that or enough, do we trust in our abilities to do these things? So
right,
there's
right.
a lot of people out there just making the right connections, which is
Well,
what you do, Jen. So
that's what I'm here for.
yeah,
But for you and I, so you've met and you helped me, or are helping me still, plural, multiple times well, sorry, I have to dry skin right now. So I had to do a quick lotion break to figure out how I can best navigate my health journey, which has been a long time coming. I've done a lot of work. And then it's funny because we're talking about what was going on with me, and I was like, yeah, I got this weird like bite thing and I've never had this happen. And it's like, I just want to give people an example. You're like, is it on your leg? And I'm like, yep. And you're like, is it on the back of your leg? And I'm like, yep. And then you're like, is it your left leg? And I'm like, "Yep." And then you're like, "Is it your thigh?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, you know what it is." Like, but you're like tiptoeing, like, "Is it this?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're totally right." And then you like got like, "Okay, this is what you need to put on it." White pine salve, never heard of it in my life. I don't even know if you had heard of it because you're like, I don't know, this is what just came. And that's how intuition works when you are connected with sources. Like you will get guidance, you're divinely guided, like you said earlier, to what things might be able to assist in feeling better
Yeah.
and helping to heal. So I just want to tie that to people with my own personal experience. That's only one thing of many that we've chatted about that you were like spot on with. So
And what's really cool about how it works is I'm like, they say this jack of all trades. I'm like, throughout this life, how do I have all of this information, right? We'll call it information, this nutrition, a little bit of fitness, a little bit of psychology. And when I see things like what you're saying, now I can make the connections looking back and connecting the dot. Oh, this makes sense. I'm not a purpose, but what else I'm supposed to be doing, like in general, these ideas, because I can connect it back to the learning, the practical, right? And help somebody progress forward because of the right steps in the direction, right? So especially with vitamins that they need, and I'm like, oh, let me check their hemoglobin levels, right? Because that's something that somebody with anemia would possibly have, and then kind of practicing for there. So it's been pretty neat as far as that journey goes.
it is super neat. Okay, so let's talk about people that want to have a new hope for themselves in the realm of health and well-being. I'm here. I am one of them. So like, where do you even start with that?
Right. And so that's the biggest question I always get. I have no idea where to start. And most people will come to me after they said, well, I know I changed my diet. I need to exercise. I need to get more sleep. And, so I'm just going to do that. And then they're back like, I didn't actually do the thing that I said I was gonna do because I know I need to eat more vegetables, but I don't know what that looks like because remember, we're changing a behavior pattern, right? Something that's subconsciously. And a lot of times those are connected to sometimes limiting beliefs that we've had, um, relationships, trauma that we have to overcome, what I consider our lessons in this lifetime. And so where I say to start is with baby steps, small little actionable steps that we can start taking in this realm of health and fitness that's going to help move you forward. Because if you provide the universe with a baby step, it's going to give you the next step, if that makes sense. But if we're not taking any action, if we're not doing anything, and being and resting is an action, by the way, then we're not going to get that next step. So the first step I always say is to become really self-aware and start listening to your body, which we already started talking about intuition, paying close attention and then getting really curious about the thing. So whether it's something that your body's telling you, whether you've been telling yourself, I need to start doing this, right? We really start looking into, well, why do you feel like you need to be doing this? Right? Is it a society view? Is it something that you actually want to do? So we get really curious on the thing. So I suggest people write, to journal, to do things. To get started is to get curious, right? And in this information world, it's really easy to get the information, but then the information is so large that sometimes we don't know where to kind of put that, how to break that down, what works smaller for us. So getting curious about the things is our first start on how to get started, which most people, if they've already started thinking about it, they're already in that space, right?
Which is awesome. I'm like, I just want to comment on, for me, my struggle is those baby steps because I go big or go home, like 30 days, like just juice only. And then it's like I'm always in the same exact spot at some point down the road and I'm running the same patterns and stuff like that. I want to say I was running. I've done a lot of clearing and healing. Now I'm ready to create from a blank space. And I feel like I'm making, since our call, like making little decisions, like eating a banana instead of I don't really eat chips, but as an example, chips, having the apples and got back into my celery juice. And so I'm like, okay, like it's these one little thing. And then I built, because it's a lifestyle change is building new habits
Right.
and new patterns, right? And that's what you were saying is like it's behavior. And it's a lot of it is subconscious and deeper things that are driving us unknowingly too.
Unknowingly. So a lot of dis-ease or anything that someone will say, oh, this is genetic. Well, no, it's actually in the behaviors and lifestyles of the people. And most diseases in the body can be brought back to a lifestyle. And so sometimes, like I said, this is an unlearning process. It's almost like our journey is about unlearning what we've learned and making a different choice. Right.
Yeah.
So that small thing that you're doing, that +1, like we're just adding something that I wouldn't have eaten before. So that's something that I always talk about in nutrition. Someone's like, I'm going to make these smoothies and I'm going to drink them every morning and they're going to have meca powder and they're going to have, they just start putting all this stuff, which is great if that's how they work. But most of the time is a lasting change doesn't come without a plan, right? The plan to fail type of quote that comes out, right? When we fail to plan. And then sometimes people put all these plans and actions. They're like, I don't actually really want to do any of this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But then they don't do it. So it's not realistic to their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I have a lot of people, a lot of like moms, a lot of coaches, a lot of people that executive, they are busy and they're like, I'm going to start prepping. Okay, when are we going to do this? And they have this idea of how they're going to do it, and then they never actually get it off the ground. So I love the little riddle of the 3 frogs on the lily pad, and I'm going to tell it to you. Okay. So there's 3 frogs on a lily pad. One decides to jump in. How many frogs are left sitting on the lily pad?
2. Is this a trick question?
It's a trick question. So we think the answer is 2. But the one decided to jump in. He didn't actually jump in because every day we make decisions to do things, right? But I didn't say he decided. He took action. He jumped in the water. I said he decided to. And every day I'm going to get up and I'm going to decide that today's the day I changed my life. Oh, wait, I had a cupcake. I didn't mean to eat a cupcake. We're going to start tomorrow. So we give this like shame, guilt, power in our life to not do the thing, to do the thing. And it's like this rehearsing pattern. So it's like, okay, so what fits your lifestyle? Someone says, Christina, I don't want to give up cookies. I was like, okay, so how many days a week do you want to eat cookies? They're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm going on a diet. I can't eat cookies. And I was like, well, yes, on Tuesday we eat cookies and on Thursday. And how about on Saturday? I got a party coming up. We're going to eat cupcakes that day. That's fine. So how are we going to balance that out with something else that's more nutritious for you? Because these foods are in our lifestyles. They're around us. So it's almost like giving ourselves permission to be human in every aspect of what's in our world is a really great thing to start doing when we get into diet with people. I always say diet, but it's a lifestyle. If I start going to the gym, I guarantee I'm going to eat better.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I just wasted my time if you're not liking the gym, but I went to the gym for some reason. The same thing goes with writing down what you eat. You start writing it down and you're like, ew, no wonder. I see it. I want to write something nice down there, so I'm going to put something down. So they're like almost little tricks in which we can, kind of curb our lifestyle. But that's going to be a big step in it too. We talk a little bit about nutrition and making it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did talk about nutrition, and then there was things that came through for you that I needed to look at as far as specifically you're like apples. Like I just see you need apples. And so I was like, okay. And it's funny because, so I'm just thinking of all the things coming through that have helped me from meeting with you. One of them was like, instead of saying I'm hungry, it's like, what does my body need? Say that instead. Or what do I want to be nourished with right now? And just changing the language totally helps, because if you say I'm hungry, the thought behind it is, oh, let me just eat anything right now. But if you're like, what is going to nourish me? That just has a totally different vibration, and it has a more question to your body. So like the other day I went out to eat and I usually get a milkshake. But I kept seeing in my head like a red Powerade. And so my mind, my logical habit was like, okay, if I go here, I want to have a milkshake. And I was like, no, but my body is saying like, get the Powerade because maybe you need some electrolytes or something, has a lot of sugar. But I was like, I'm just going to trust that that's what my body wants or needs. So, and I did. And it was like, cool. Like it was the awareness of it. And then the listening piece too, because a lot of times I go with my habit and I don't listen to the body. So it's
Yeah.
very, very powerful.
Spot on with that. So those are just small little techniques in which I say kickstart behavior, right?
Yeah.
A new habit, a new way of thinking, because it's us that gets in our own way every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time, in some way or form. So the nourish one is something I love, because if I go to pick something, I'm like, is this really nourishing my body? So
Yeah.
I always change it to I want something to nourish me. And even sometimes I'm like, I want something that feels wholesome and good, right? Because I recognize that that's what my body is needing at that moment. And so then, is macaroni and cheese and tomato soup a good idea at that moment? Yes, because it's almost like the the power that I've given it has meaning, right? So the power I've given behind the food. We've talked about this a little bit, but if I go to get some food and then I'm like, ugh, not this, it's gonna make me fat. Ugh, not another one. Christina, why are you eating this junk? Why can't you do this prep work? So it's
Yeah.
like all this gross energy going into what it is that I'm then going to put inside my body and expect it to do something good. I've already cursed it before I got it into my energy. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy the power we have.
It is crazy. And that was one of the other things that you were like, Jet, if you want to go eat some fast food, like stop calling it bad food and just you make a decision that you want to eat that for whatever reason. And that's it. And then don't say like, oh, like this is so bad. And then put it in your body because you're like almost blessing it to be bad into my body. And I was like, ooh, mind blown.
Yeah, it's a definite trick I use when I'm going. I'm like, okay, this is the food that I'm going to be eating right now. Body, take everything that it needs. Please get rid of quick whatever it doesn't need, whatever's not good for it, get rid of it. It's almost like a prayer that I put over my food before I eat it. And then I almost give it gratitude.
Yeah.
There's so many studies I think we've talked about
Mhm.
food that's given with gratitude. And the actual people saying in studies that it tastes better, right? It was juicier, it was better for me, and there was no difference between the food that was, we'll say, uh, gr- given grace, gratitude over, versus the one that wasn't, other than the power of words, which is what my dissertation is actually on. So
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, and it is true because, you hear the term made with love and now that we've had the conversation, I'm like, "Ah, okay." And also like my ancestors, anytime
mhm.
that they would catch and kill food to eat, they always like did ceremonies or blessed it or gave their gratitude for the life that was sacrificed for them to eat and be able to live. So,
Yeah.
super
Such a
powerful.
different power behind it than, "This is gross and nasty for my body. I can't believe I'm doing it."
Yes. Yeah.
Right? We call it vitamin L, which is the vitamin of love. The
I
most
love
important vitamin.
I love that. Okay, so what actions will put people back on track to living their best self?
So we have a few of them, but nutrition is going to be one. Just eat real food. Try to get real food. And when we say real food, it's really hard in our environment to know what's real or not real. So doing our research, but really getting into a space of like, I'm eating wholesome food that my body can break down easily. Because in a world of environmental toxins and we'll say word vomit, right, and environmental vomit that's out there, the food that we were putting in our body should be as clean as possible, because then our body has to do less work. So that's going to be one. And people say it's too much all at once. I'm just like remember the all at once. Add one thing that's good. Take away one thing that's not so good is going to be a good one. Daily movement is in there, right? Moving any way possible. Everyone's like, well, I can't get to the gym. Right. But if I got up for a few minutes and I was dancing it out in the kitchen, when I clean the floor or sweep, putting that extra oomph into it. When I'm picking up and cleaning, maybe I run up the stairs once and I run back and I'm like, I'm just going to do stairs again. Movement, I always say dance is the biggest thing, because our body, our energy, you can actually see how that ebb and flow of energy moves within someone differently when their body's in motion. So it's not so much of an exercise, but we know it gives off other hormones, but it's definitely like movement.
Yeah.
Another one, like, get back into nature. Like, we need to create space for ourselves. We don't realize that the things around us, everything in your room holds on to energy. And if you knew how much energy it holds on to of all, like, say there's an argument, say there's a terrible feeling, like things get bogged down. It's just matter, right? And how energy works and how it holds on to things. Sometimes you're like, I don't really want this thing anymore. It feels yucky and you want to get rid of it. Get rid of it. There's a reason for those type of things. And so getting back into nature and opening and creating space, like clearing out those closets, those type of things, but getting back into nature because it's so big and the flow of energy in nature is just so natural, we'll say, that when you're in it, your frequency actually changes, right? So if you're
Mm,
looking to upgrade, nature is one of the biggest thing. It transforms and transmutes energy for people.
yeah, it's so
It's
funny.
its first job.
Well, right, and it's like that connection with the earth and the grounding and, the
Yeah,
mother is the earth and there's the core and it takes all the stuff away from us, so when you're putting your feet on the ground, like, now that I know these things, I go outside every day and I sit in the sun
yeah,
in my backyard, which is like, a little nature's haven, and then I take off my socks and I go stand in the grass and I'm like, "Ah, like, thank you, sun," like, it's so and it feels so good,
yeah.
and
I
it's
mean,
funny. Oh, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's funny because I have a pendulum, right? So it's I have it right here. It's my little black stone and it stopped working. And so I went to a holistic fair this weekend and I went to the stone shop and I was like, I need a new pendulum. Mine stopped working. And she's like, it's taken all that it can take. And she's like, you need to cleanse it. And I've had it on selenite now. And she's like, no, you're gonna have to bury it into the ground because it needs to release the energy. And I was just like, "Oh my god, that's so funny," because it's an object, but it's the same thing, like the energy of items and things around us. So I want to show
Yeah.
you.
And crystals are so cool. The things I've learned about it. I mean, we talk about Olaf, right? In his little Elsa fairy tale, and he says, water has memory. If you think about what crystal is crystallized water. And so you're thinking about it's holding the memories, it has that property, and each crystal has a different frequency. And why? Because color has frequency. So a lot of times, like this week, I've been like, oh, what should I wear? I'll ask that question. What color do I feel like today? And the first one that comes to mind, I'm like, okay, let me find that color. Why? Because I feel like your body needs that color. So
Yeah.
we do a lot of energy work on people when they come in and we do like cranial sacral type therapy. We're introducing colors into their systems in which they need a frequency around them. So crystals have that ability because they can transform things and move things. So go bury that crystal.
I'm
Jen,
embarrassed that crystal.
have to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so like we're already on the topic of it because you said the colors and we've talked about it, but how else can people feel back into their body for the answers that they've been wanting and looking for?
Yeah, so the best thing is to get into a quiet space and start listening again. Your body, it tells you all the time what it needs. You just stop listening to it. Well,
Yeah.
I got this pain in my neck because I slept on it wrong. Okay, so let's talk about that pain in your neck, right? Do you also have a pain here and here? Because it's usually connected along in Western medicine in meridian lines. So let's find out why your neck was able to hold that energy to begin with of that block and that pain. I get a cramp in my side every day, and what organ is that being held in? And they have different meanings, right? To a point where, like, I got into discussion with somebody this week about acne on the face and different areas. And they're like, oh, if you have too much dairy, like right down to like environmental factors, but they play on the same meridians that Western medicine has. So it's pretty neat that if we start actually asking ourselves the questions and getting curious, so write them down is my biggest thing. If you don't know now and you're not used to listening to yourself, is writing that down to start figuring out what it's trying to tell you. I need to go to a doctor. Okay, so you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, you're perfectly fine. Nope, we've run all the blood work tests. You're okay. Well, let's say that it's not something in the physical body and that's more in the emotional body, and that actually has to move. And that's how energy, Reiki, a lot of people, those are how those energies work, right? Something's blocked and the body wants to heal itself. So it's screaming to most people right now,
Yeah.
right? In the forms of some types of inflammation. We had a few of my clients have PCOS, right? And so we link that to the physical stuff, which is um, a lot of sugars, a lot of inflammation. Um, their body speaks of biography almost, right? So we can go back to as early as a certain age where they started to either take a birth control, they started to take antibiotics for something, or we're trying to put these band-aids on these things, which is great, but we never really solve the underlying problem, right? We're just kind of solving the symptoms. So I think that answers your question, but I went off on a tangent. I get excited about this stuff.
I know you do, and that's your jam. It's like me and
Yeah.
spirituality in this as well. So what for anybody that's watching that might not be familiar, what is a meridian?
So a meridian is okay, my best explanation is in acupuncture therapy. Most people are familiar with the idea of what it is, but they're putting needles at certain points on your body. And usually they're at the beginning and ending of a meridian. It's how energy flows through our body. It's one of our 9 systems of energy. We have a lot more than we know because it's not taught in Eastern medicine. Um, but these meridians are energy pathways, just like you would look at a circuit on a wall, set up how energy flows through. Your body has those same currents, and sometimes along those lines we get kinks in them. And where do we get kinks from? Well, we can get it from physical, but a lot of times it's emotional or beliefs that we hold tight in our body that we haven't allowed our bodies to feel, and so there it gets stuck, and we'll notice that pain kind of moves through that area and clogs up those meridians. But if we can, there's a lot of ways we can untrap emotion, physical energy from the body by using acupressure. It doesn't even have to be a puncture. So holding those points, a lot of people do EMT tapping. You had mentioned on one of your shows that you had somebody doing that type of tapping, which is just basically setting the body up for energy to hold itself. We are these big energy beings, and we've been stuffed inside this, I wasn't going to say cupcake, but that's a cupcake of a person, right? And we just, we want to be so expansive. And sometimes our physical bodies don't allow us to be so expansive. And so a meridian is channels of energy, right? They flow throughout the body.
And then you answered my other question because you had spoke about it earlier about how like the physical pain, a lot of times, if nothing comes up in the Western world when you go to the doctor, that it's potentially something in the emotional world that it didn't fully process through and it's just hanging out. And it could be so many different things. And then it starts to block the flow and it's your body talking to you in that way also.
Yeah. And there's amazing medical devices out there that actually will show these energy issues
Yeah.
in them. So I have a cool little device. It's called a Healy. I think I've sent it to you or
Yeah.
showed you, but it'll come right down to telling you in your auric fields where something is a problem or it needs to be, healed. This one woman I had a consultation with, of course, I get curious. I was like, okay, so something's beaming. It's yellow. It's on your left-hand side. She was in this meeting, and I'm over here tapping in the chat room. Hey, you're talking about this issues. It's actually, do you have pain in your left side in this area? And she's like, oh my God, yes. I was like, it's related to the issue you're talking about. You need to let go of what's going on with your mother and process that emotional energy, and that pain will go away. And she's like, how is that so certain? This has been happening. I was like, yeah. And you can actually go back to the timeline and see that pain started around this time. And it's so wild now that I know. It's like you can't tell me personally, that it's anything else because it all makes sense to me.
Right. And if anybody takes anything away from this that's like mind blown right now, it's like just observe, be open and observe it and start observing it. And because when I heard all this stuff and I was on the beginning of my journey, I'm like, what the frick are we talking about? Like, this is crazy talk. But I was open because that's just where I was in my life. And I'm like, okay, like I'll be open to this.
Yeah, I think sometimes we get so stuck. We're like, I have nothing else. Like, take the wheel. I don't know what else to do, what could possibly, I don't know the next step. I feel like I've tried everything because remember, we've done all of our resources that could possibly what we've learned. It's like we've been giving a transcript and it's been rehearsed. And now someone's asking us to step outside of it. By that time, I was so willing to listen to what somebody had. I'm like, I don't know how to make this any better because I feel just stuck,
Yeah.
you know? And I knew about certain things, you know, how emotions and words and all of this, but I didn't make the connection. So exactly right. And getting curious and starting to like, if something doesn't make sense, go find something that like is completely unseen that it like open your eyes to the possibility, I guess, is really
Yeah.
the biggest thing.
Well, and the universe is always speaking to us, and I feel like people that are on the path, they're going to keep bumping up into little signs and synchronicities that are trying to tell
Mhm.
them, like, "Hey, we're here. Like, listen to us. Look, look, look."
Yeah.
And as you hear it more and more, it plants a seed, and then you become more open. You're like, "Huh, I just heard someone talking about that." And then when you just, for me, like, you get desperate, and you're like, "Ah, I'm just tired. Like, I'll try anything. I'll listen to anything. Like, help." Like, and I think that's what's happening is we have so many people that are just in pain physically and emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Some of those they might not even know, and they're just coming to points that they're just like, I'm open because I have no other choices and I'm desperate,
Right.
basically.
Right.
Right.
And isn't it it's so crazy that we have to get to that point that we're just like, nothing else makes sense. It's almost like the great surrendering, which go figure, you know, the spiritual meaning behind surrendering and letting go is just that ability to, you know, be open to the other possibilities. And I
Yeah.
think this is where a lot of people's spiritual journeys, if you follow their stories that they tell you, you know, lead to.
Yeah.
lead
Yeah.
to.
I love that.
Mhm.
So how can people create energetic sovereignty for themselves?
Oh, so what energetic sovereignty is just that. It's creating this energetic bubble for yourself and understanding and being mindful of what your body's telling you. So like the first steps we're saying is like these small little things. There's a few more, right? Getting sleep, getting rest, getting the rebuild so you're there. But really making your piece your priority. And we talk. I don't know if we've talked about that concept that been given so many coins. We won't say the word in front of the coin that we usually call them, but you've been given so many coins during the day, and it's like if you had to keep giving a coin out for every small little thing, even a thought in your mind, right? Negative, positive, worry, whatever it is. Oh my God, I got to go pick up the dog after work. I got to go pick up, and we're just constantly connecting to that thought. We're giving an energetic coin to that thought. And so if we really understood how energy works, we'd have the key to the universe, right? As Tesla would say. Um, but as we give these coins to people in our lives that don't deserve our coins, right? How it's affecting us on a daily basis, we would learn to hold on to these coins as like this little precious gift, right? And energetic sovereignty is just that, creating that for yourself on a daily basis by doing these small little actionable steps, right? My piece is my priority. Am I going to let the person in front of me, swerving in front of me, really take 5 of my coins away when my day hasn't even begun yet, right? So it's like it's almost like a the true self-value, right? I value myself and my energy so much that I'm not just willing to drop my coins all over the ground for anything. And almost matching that to your value, saying these are what I want to use my coins to. And that's when we get into flow. That's when we get into that higher level of thriving, of health, because all of a sudden we then become deserving and of value of those coins in our lives. So that's what energetic sovereignty is all about. And how do we start creating, Jen, is just those one little steps at a time, right? They're not this giant change that we expect as humans because we're told this, I feel like, or because we know that our soul is so big that it wants to burst out and we're supposed to do all of these amazing things in our life, that it needs to happen at this moment, that we take for granted that making dinner in a kitchen with our family is so underrated. So that's where that gratitude practice comes in, which people
Mm,
talk
yeah.
about, right? Going to bed each night with, what am I so grateful for today? Like stop. Like sometimes I have to stop myself. I'm like, my dog, he's getting older, and I'm like, oh my God, I love you so much. After I trip over him 3 times in the kitchen because he just like traces back and forth, or he starts to go to the bathroom on the floor now, and I'm like, I am so happy that I have been able to give you an amazing life and all of the joy that you've brought to my family. Like, if I just start changing the words, it's not about just think positive. It's about really truly feeling that idea of gratitude, that we start to really begin to create that in our lives for ourselves. That almost our mindset, that habit around creating, what am I grateful for, instead of those complaints. And that's a really giant one. Each night before bed.
Yeah.
Each morning, whatever it is. I have a sign on my wall over there. It says, begin each day with a grateful heart. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. I'm complaining. I get it.
That caught my eye. I hear it. Yeah, that's how it works.
Catching ourselves enough.
And by doing those things, that's how people can bring the joy back in their lives, right? Yeah.
Right. If I said anything, I think this is what I've come to the conclusion at this moment in my life. One of the things I think I do well and I'm meant to do is bring hope back to the world, right? Giving people hope that in a new beginning, what the title of this is that small steps are going to create that hope in a place where you feel pretty hopeless, whether that be in your physical health, mental health, in your connections with other people. There are such small things that we don't realize have such a giant, big impact on the next step. And until we take that small little thing, does anything really change for us?
I love the coin thing. You have not shared that with me previously, but it makes perfect sense. Like, peace is your priority, and is it worth, like I've never really been a super angry driver. The times that I am is when I'm running late and I'm frustrated, which really comes back to frustrated at myself for the fact that I'm running late and then I'm taking it out on other people. But now I'm just like, oh, okay, come on in. Like, that was a little bit of a dick move, but okay, whatever. There's room for all of us, and it's just like, I don't want to give away that vibration and that peace from myself to be pissed at, like,
don't let them have their accident somewhere else. So one of my favorite lectures that I give to a bunch of my students is this conversation, right? You, in no way, when you're having a great day, are you going to start probably swearing at the driver next to you, being mad at a coworker? Why? Because there's this glow to your bubble that you can't explain, because you're feeling good, things are going your way, right? When you get into like, oh, this always happens to me, right? In that negative connotation, you're usually in a space in which you're feeling that way already. So you're going to let the driver go and be like, hey, have a good day, and just wave as they flip you off. Versus if things are going not so well, this is stress management 101. If things aren't going your way, I'm more apt to get caught in that depletion of energy, right? That cycle. And then guess what? We call it the snowball effect, right? And resiliency is like, we just keep picking up skiers and debris along the way until we have this giant snowball of straight up crap. Is the only way to explain it. And then at the end of the day, we've given not only all of our coins away, but we've dipped into tomorrow's coins as well. And the day isn't over. And now we've got to start with half a coin, like half the coin base the next day. That's energy put into a tiny term in which I think most people can understand. Like, hey, today you only have 5 coins because you wasted your coins yesterday when you were feeling angry. Right? The idea of the bucket fillers, right? If you've ever read the books, there's a kid book that I loved, right? The same idea is when our bucket's full, we like to fill other people's, or that action. But we don't take it back down to a simple term in which that's what's actually happening.
Yeah. I love it. I can speak so much more on this, but I'm like, I don't want to get crazy with the time. So, let's see. Heidi says, speaking of synchronicities, I've been wanting to learn more about the energetics and how it relates to different pains in the body. Oh my gosh, you two need to connect. She asked, what is the tool that you use to read people's energy fields? The Healy. I think it's the Healy, right?
Well, that's a actual medical device to do it. So what I actually do is I actually connect to their energy field, connect my energy field to their energy field, and
that's your spiritual gift.
Yeah, as a gift. So I don't know which one you were asking, but if somebody needed to have some questions, like medical devices do those things, and Healy's just one of the it's biofeedback.
Yeah,
is what we're given. So yeah. I did put my Calendly link into the feed on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Technical terms of these things online, I don't know for sure, so that's what I called it. If you wanted to connect and we could go over a quick session, there's 20-minute Calendly links there. And I will put some notes into that section as well. So these little actionable steps that people can kind of start taking, and pick one. Don't pick them all, but pick something. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get some sleep. I'm gonna turn my phone off an hour before bed. I'm gonna not sleep with it in my room, right? And every time I think of something, if I wake up, I'm gonna write it down and then I'm gonna go back to sleep, right? And they're like, well, I didn't get as much sleep as I wanted to, and I did all those things, Christina, you told me. And I say, okay, do it again tomorrow night, and do it again the next night, right? Because we're rewiring the
Right.
body and the brain to work for us, because for so long we ignored it.
Well, yeah, and it's like for me, so I'm 40, so I have 40 years of things built up. It's not going to just change overnight. I mean, I do a lot of extra work with healers and with clearings and subconscious work, and that helps, but it's still not like just, oh, okay, hey, it's all my life is so different and perfect overnight. No, it takes
No,
work and practice.
everyone, what's my purpose? Your purpose is your journey. This is what I've come to find out. Your journey into alignment. You've come into this world all defragmented. People talk about fractal energy, and
Mhm.
our job is to put the pieces back. But in the meantime, we're steered with more pieces thrown in there that don't actually really fit with us, and we've got to actually figure out which one of those pieces to take out to become whole again. Like,
Yeah.
this is my idea of the lessons. Because if not, we're coming back in the next lifetime to do it all over again, only through a different lens. And so those lessons have to be learned.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk tomorrow. There is a Call to Connect event. It is at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So I'm in California. So for you, you're in Eastern. And so that's 7 p.m. It's an hour and a half. You are our featured healer. So you are going to be doing, for anybody that attends, a group like clearing, cleanse, energy. I don't know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, I want to get them back into their body. So a couple of tools or techniques that are extremely applicable in your life that you can actually do in a moment in which you want to start listening to your body, or getting rid of something and putting something back in, is one of the exercises that we're going to do. And it's something that one of the first spiritual things that people started to do in my life when I started on my journey. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing this one. This one's great.
Yep, whatever your intuition says, I trust, and I already know what your capabilities are, and it's going to be magical. And I am actually giving free admission to the 2 events this month, because I was just like, I'm a little overwhelmed. I don't want to put myself into burnout and try to get it all done. So I was like, just use the code GIFT, and I'll pop the link in there if you want to join and come see Christina. And we have another amazing speaker also speaking about energy and how it affects us in real life, real time. And then we'll do our little connection rooms. And you are taking clients now, right? So
Yeah,
I know you had closed off sessions for a while to bring peace to yourself,
I did.
and you're back open. So you can do a 20-minute free consultation or discovery call, whatever you want to call it, with Christina. And then you chat a little bit about what that consists of.
Yeah. So they'll come in, we'll do a consultation. A lot of times it's almost like a health coaching, where you'd come in with a doctor and we just kind of go through all the things, right? And that matters. Sometimes we move forward. A lot of times I'll do a quick follow-up with you if I've given you some tangible thing to kind of go with. And if not, there's another session in which is an hour long that you can choose to take, in which we kind of really take a deep dive into that. And that comes with a follow-up as well. So those are just 2, just even see if they want to, you know what I say, have a doctor in their pocket, a health coach. So in the journey next. So yeah, I took a little bit of time off to rebuild and restore my own energy, because I felt something pretty big was coming. So we're all kind of in the same realm of big energy right now, I say.
Yeah, a lot of shift, a lot of transition, a lot of people awakening for the first time, and a lot of people wanting guidance and connection. So
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I will pop in. I saw the Calendly link on my personal page. I'll go pop it in the other. This is streamed in another couple of places. And if anyone has questions, they can book a call with Christina or connect with me, and I'll get you connected to Christina. And if anyone is interested in attending the event tomorrow, we would love to have you. Men and women are welcome, and it's got a spiritual vibe. I won't, it is woo. Like I'm woo and it's fun. And even if you're just opening to it, come. Cause we're like, we're people though too. Like I call myself an organized hippie. Like it's the best way I could describe it. Super woo, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, let's make it organized and efficient and do all the things like that we do in the human life as well.
Right. It's so crazy that the hippies got that negative connotation, but if you were like, "Oh, we're doing, like, Native American practices," then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, that stuff works." It's the
Yeah,
same it's that same
it's
type of
interesting. I've never thought of that, but you're right. Like
yeah,
it is. It's the perception of society, right?
right.
The hippies is just like dirty, messy, like don't
Oh,
care.
hugging a tree. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Huh. I'll have to think on that some more.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your time and all of your energy being here and your presence and your knowledge, of course, as always. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Thank you. And thanks everyone who's watching. If you're on the replays, say hello. Bye. Have a great